to stop the boats. Today, after months of work and detailed planning, I'm announcing that the next Conservative government will take Britain out of the ECHR. This is not a decision I take lightly, but our country is our home. It's not a hotel. Nothing will stop me restoring control of our borders. Yes, in government, we tried to control immigration. We passed laws.
Kimi Bad Enoch devastating takedown of Shabana. Before we dive into what might be the most savage political moment of the conference season, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to be here when the next political bombshell drops. Right? Let's get into it. Picture this. The Conservative Party Conference. The atmosphere thick with anticipation. Kimi Bad Enoch takes the stage, and what follows is nothing short of a political masterclass in the art of the takedown. But here's the thing that everyone's talking about. It wasn't some lengthy, prepared diatribe. It was one word. One perfectly placed, devastatingly effective word that sent shockwaves through Westminster and left Labour scrambling for a response. Now, if you think British politics has gone soft, think again. Because what we witnessed was a kind of razor-sharp political theatre that this country does better than anyone else. Bad Enoch didn't just throw punches. She wielded a scalpel, and her primary target? The new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, who's been desperately trying to rebrand herself as a tough-on-crime, no-nonsense enforcer that Labour need to convince Middle England they are serious about security. Here's where it gets absolutely delicious. Bad Enoch stands at that podium, looks directly at the audience, and says, "Just look at Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary. She's trying to convince us that she's tough." And then comes a pause. That pregnant pause where you know something brilliant is about to land. Right. Just one word. Right. But the way she delivered it, dripping with such exquisite skepticism, such perfectly calibrated derision, that you could practically hear the collective winds ripple through Labour's front bench. But Bad Enoch wasn't finished. Oh no, because anyone can deliver a cutting line. What separates the amateurs from the professionals is a follow-through. And bloody hell, did she follow through. She reminds everyone, and I mean everyone, about Mahmood's previous incarnations. Remember when she tried to stop foreign criminals being deported? Remember when she literally lay down on the ground in front of a Sainsbury's, protesting because they were selling food from Israel? These aren't fabrications. These are documented facts. These are the receipts. And Bad Enoch just laid them out like a prosecutor presenting evidence to a jury. So, forgive me, she says, if I treat this newfound tough image with a little bit of skepticism. And there it is. The complete evisceration of political rebrand in under 30 seconds. Because that's the problem Labour faces right now, isn't it? They've spent years cultivating one image, playing to their base, building their credentials on the left. And now they're in government. They need to pivot. They need to convince the public there's something they've never been. And Bad Enoch has just exposed that tension in the most public, most humiliating way possible. But let's talk about why this matters beyond the theatre of it all. Because British politics right now is in a fascinating moment. Labour won the election, yes, but with one of the least inspiring mandates in modern history. The Conservatives are in opposition, trying to find their identity, trying to work out what they stand for in a post-Brexit, post-Boris, post-everything world. And Reform UK is nipping at their heels, offering a more radical alternative to voters who feel the Tories have betrayed them. Into this maelstrom steps Kimi Bad Enoch. She's fighting for her political life. The polls aren't kind. The whispers about her leadership are getting louder. This conference speech wasn't just another appearance on the calendar. This was make or break. This was her chance to prove she's got what it takes to lead the party back to relevance, back to power. And she knew it. You could see it in every calculated word, every perfectly timed jab. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, didn't escape unscathed either. Bad Enoch went straight for the jugular. Rachel Reeves likes to congratulate herself for breaking the glass ceiling. What she's really broken is our economy. Now that's a line that's going to sting. Because Reeves has built her entire political identity around being the serious, economically literate choice. The adult in the room. The person who understands spreadsheets and fiscal responsibility. And here's Bad Enoch, systematically dismantling that narrative. Attacking those who work hard. Destroying business confidence. Forcing wealth creators to leave the country. Piling debt onto our children. Each accusation lands with precision because each one taps into a genuine anxiety that exists in the country right now. People are worried. They're worried about taxes. They're worried about the brain drain of talent leaving the UK. They're worried about what kind of economic mess we're leaving for the next generation. And Bad Enoch is articulating those fears, channeling them into a coherent political attack that frames Labour as reckless, ideological, and fundamentally untrustworthy with the nation's finances. Then comes a prediction, the warning. The prophecy. We know that in her November budget of doom, she will give us all something to cry about. Budget of doom. 3 words that are going to stick. 3 words that will be repeated endlessly between now and November. 3 words that Labour will spend enormous amounts of political capital trying to counter. Because once that narrative sets in, once the public starts thinking of a budget as a moment of impending disaster rather than careful economic management, you've already lost half the battle. And Angela Rayner? She didn't escape either. Bad Enoch jokes that because of Rayner's union-written employment rights bill, she herself may be remembered as one of the last people in Britain to ever be legally sacked. It's a brilliant line because it does multiple things at once. It pokes fun at her own precarious position as Tory leader. It highlights Labour's close relationship with the unions, something that makes Middle England nervous. And it paints Labour's employment legislation as economically destructive, making it harder for businesses to operate, harder for the economy to be dynamic and competitive. But here's the moment that shows real political maturity, real strategic thinking. Bad Enoch turns her attention to Nigel Farage and Reform UK. And she doesn't do what many in her party want her to do. She doesn't launch into a full-throated attack. Instead, she warns her own side. We can't beat them simply by attacking them. And then she quotes George Bernard Shaw. Never wrestle with a pig. You both get dirty, and the pig likes it. Think about what she's doing here. She's acknowledging the threat that reform poses. She's acknowledging that the traditional approach of attacking them, of treating them as beyond the pale, hasn't worked. In fact, it's backfired spectacularly. Every time Conservatives have tried to paint reform as extremist, as unacceptable, as dangerous, they've only made them more appealing to voters who feel ignored and patronized by the establishment. So Bad Enoch is signaling a different approach. We need to understand why people are drawn to reform. We need to win them back with policy, with vision, with a compelling alternative, not with insults. That takes courage. That takes political intelligence. Because there are plenty in her party who would love nothing more than to go to war with Farage, to make him the enemy, to rally the troops around opposing everything he stands for. But Bad Enoch knows that a losing strategy. She knows that Reform's voters are people the Conservatives need to win back if they're ever going to return to government. And you can't win people back by calling them idiots for listening to the other side. Then comes the policy bombshell. The moment that shifts is from being merely a good speech full of clever lines to being a genuinely significant political event. Bad Enoch pledges to abolish stamp duty altogether. Not reduce it. Not reform it. Abolish it. This is a massive, headline-grabbing policy announcement that immediately reframes the entire housing debate in this country. Stamp duty has long been criticized as a drag on the housing market, a tax on mobility, a barrier to people moving for work or to upsize or downsize as their circumstances change. It's economically inefficient. It raises less money than you'd think, and it creates all sorts of perverse incentives in the market. By pledging to abolish it, Bad Enoch is doing several things. She's positioning Conservatives as a party of aspiration again, the party that wants to help people get on and move up. She's offering a clear, simple, understandable policy that voters can grasp and get behind. No complicated tweaks to the tax system. No means-tested rebates. Just abolish the bloody thing. And she's creating a clear dividing line with Labour, who are almost certainly going to defend stamp duty as a necessary source of revenue, which immediately makes them sound like the party of taxes and barriers rather than opportunity. This is the kind of bold, surprising policy announcement that cuts through, that gets people talking, that makes voters sit up and think, hang on, maybe the Conservatives do have something interesting to say after all. And in a political landscape where the Tories have been floundering, where they've seemed like a party out of ideas and out of touch, this matters enormously. But let's bring it back to that moment. That devastating, brilliant, perfectly executed moment when Badenoch looked at Mahmood's attempt to rebrand as a tough Home Secretary and just said, right, because that's what we'll remember. That's what will be clipped and shared and discussed. That's a moment that crystallizes everything about where British politics is right now. Labour trying to be something they're not. The Conservatives trying to find their voice again. And a leader who, for all the questions about her position, demonstrated that she's got the wit, the timing, and the killer instinct to make the opposition deeply uncomfortable. This is the caliber of political combat that British politics does best. No shouting, no histrionics. Just perfectly calibrated skepticism delivered with a raised eyebrow and a single word. Right. And in that word, Bad Enoch managed to convey everything. I don't believe you. The public doesn't believe you. And we all remember who you really are. Mahmood wanted to present herself as the new face of labor toughness. Instead, she's become a cautionary tale about the perils of political reinvention when your record is there for everyone to see. Bad Enoch wanted to prove she's got what it takes to lead. And for one conference speech, at least, she made a compelling case. Whether it's enough to save her leadership, whether it's enough to turn around the conservatives' fortunes, we'll have to wait and see. But make no mistake, this was a performance. This was political theater of the highest order. And that one word, delivered with perfect comic timing and devastating effect, is going to echo through Westminster for weeks to come. Because in the end, British politics is about more than policies and manifestos. It's about moments. It's about who can land the punch, who can make their opponent look small, who can command the stage and make people listen. And for all the challenges Bad Enoch faces, she proves she can do exactly that. Mahmood walked into that conference trying to look tough, and she walked out a punchline. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you do opposition politics. If you want to stay ahead of every twist, every turn, every perfectly timed political grenade that gets lobbed across the dispatch box, you know what to do. Hit subscribe, because the